Hi everyone, it's Tom from Heritage Blades here. Last year I had a few people asking about peening the tangs on knives, so I thought I'd do a quick little video showing you the process that I use. It's not necessarily the right way, it's just the way I do. A simple way just for peening the tang. So we have our knife fitted in this vise here. It's a through tang knife, so that means the tang goes all the way through and protrudes just from the end. Hopefully you can see that there. And peening the tang is basically doming that over so that it locks the whole knife together. This particular knife does have some epoxy inside the handle. However, if you get this right, you don't need any of that, which I really like avoiding using epoxy, because if you do glue the whole handle together and something goes wrong or down the line it needs replacement, if you haven't used epoxy, you can just file off the domed end of the tang and everything just comes apart and you can restack the knife handle. Right, now the knife is secured in the vise. It has a little slip of birch bark in there just to help protect the blade as we do this. You could use a bit of leather, a bit of wood. I've got loads of birch bark in here, so I've got that. And what we're looking at is just making sure everything is nice and secure. There's already not much wobble. And before you do start peening that tang, you want to make sure as well you've got no clearances in the spaces, in the gaps on the stack of the handle here. So sometimes you can go ahead and you can try and start peening it thinking that it will close everything up, but frankly, if there is a gap, it will show, and you want to make sure everything's perfectly fitted before you get onto that. You can see we've got quite a bit of material sticking out the top here. That is too much for what I'm going to need on this, so I do want to take it down. This tang itself has been softened, has been annealed, so hopefully I'm going to be able to just break a bit off with some pliers, and then we can file that flat. You can see hopefully that there is well, it's not flat anymore. So if you start trying to hammer the tang and it doesn't have a flat surface at the top, what will happen is that it will encourage the tang to bend one way or another, which we don't want to happen. We want to keep this as level as possible. Just making sure everything's sitting nicely. This particular type of end cap on the knife still needs more work, which will be done once it's all constructed. However, this is a typical 12th to 13th century type of knife that I'm working on here. I think the best piece of advice I can give for working on tangs like this is just take your time. Don't try and rush it. Try to make sure everything is fitted nicely. And although I have a whole bunch of different tools in my workshop, if you get it right, hopefully you should only need a nice ball peen hammer, a pretty good sharp file, and as I say, maybe a pliers to shorten any excess material. So we're going to get our ball peen here and start tapping down. We're not going to wang away, we are just going to do light taps, and I'm going to start off in the middle. Hopefully that will spread the material out, and then I will start working around the sides, spreading and doming it over. And I'm going to watch for, make sure the tang doesn't curl off in any direction I don't want it to go. And this will probably work down, so I'm going to have to reset it in the vise a few times. I'm expecting. This vise doesn't have any teeth, but I like it that way because then it's no risk of scratching the blade. The material is spreading out quite nicely. We've got a little bit of a curve, so I'm going to try and hammer on one side a bit more, push it back the other way. Now you'll get to a point where the metal becomes too hard to keep hammering. You'll find it's not moving very far, or you might find that pieces are starting to break off, which we want to avoid. That's where we have our nice sharp file. Once you spread the top of the tang out and it's reached that point, just remove some of that surface material. Basically you're removing some of the metal which is work hardened and no longer wants to move for you. Got to bear in mind we are hammering carbon steel, which might have been annealed in this case, might have been softened in this case, but it will harden up pretty quickly under your hammer. I also go around, and if there are any particularly thin pieces that have come out, I just remove them a little bit. Okay, might bring our knife up a little bit more, give myself a bit more clearance at the base. Make sure he's in nice and firm, and carry on. And how do we know when it's set? Well, nothing moves. We can see that actually we've still got a little bit of play in this end cap here. So if you've got a nice little tool that's got a hole in it, or just a piece of metal, anything that you can use to hammer down, because sometimes when you're peening the tang, the vibrations pull all the materials up, so we just want to push it down a bit more. Take off a bit of that material and aim for the center of that bone. Done in a tidy way, you should end up with the end actually being as much a part of the decoration as well as something functional there. We don't want the tang splaying out in all different directions. We don't want it with fractures running through it. We want it to look nice as well. It's a feature of the knife, as well as the bit that holds everything all together. Here I'm just smoothing out any hammer blows left by the ball peen on my hammer. And I think nicely domed, firmly on there, it's not going anywhere.